Hallo und herzlich willkommen zur nächsten Ausgabe oder zur ersten Ausgabe im Jahr 2022 von Drink at Home. Es freut mich, dass so viele von euch wieder dabei sind. Unsere heutigen Gäste, eigentlich war ja promotet nur ein Gast, der Gudjon, aber dann im Laufe des gestrigen Nachmittags hat auch Baldur, der Head Brewer von Einstök, eingewilligt, dass er gemeinsam mit uns die Biere verkosten wird. Haben wir Einstök zu Gast, eine sehr coole Marke, die in Österreich schon einige Jahre am Markt ist und die Leute, speziell das White Ale, irrsinnig lieben und es sehr, sehr schätzen. Heute wird es natürlich sehr viel gehen um Bier, aber das Interessante ist natürlich auch, wenn man Gäste hat aus Island, dass man ein bisschen so über das Leben und über das Land selbst erfährt. Und das alles werden wir in den nächsten 1,5 Stunden gemeinsam mit euch und mit unseren Gästen, den Gudjon und den Baldur, besprechen und erleben. Für alle, die zum ersten Mal dabei sind, ganz kurz zur Erklärung, ihr habt in euren Paketen gefunden einen Zettel, wo ganz kurz beschrieben wird, der Gudjon, Baldur war noch nicht auf dem Zettel, weil er eben, wie gesagt, ganz kurzfristig eingesprungen ist. Auf der Rückseite findet ihr die Reihenfolge der Biere, also in welcher wir diese gemeinsam verkosten werden. Und dann habt ihr noch einen Verkostungsbogen in euren Paketen gefunden, hoffentlich, wo ihr euch ganz einfach persönliche Notizen machen könnt. Ich würde euch bitten, dass ihr viele Fragen schreibt. Wir werden die dann versuchen, natürlich alle zu beantworten und während der Verkostung auch diese Fragen stellen an unsere beiden Gäste. Und ich würde sagen, starten wir und good evening to Iceland, good evening Gudjon, good evening Baldur. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for doing this online tasting together with all your fans here in Austria. And I would say, let's start, Gudjon, with you. Tell us a little bit about you as a person. What is your role at Einstök?
Yeah, thank you. Very pleased to be here, and thank you everybody who has participated. My name is, in English, we pronounce it Gudjon Gudmundsson, but in Icelandic, Gudjon Gudmundsson. I live in Reykjavik, or one of the suburbs, but our brewery is in Akureyri, and the Baldur, you will come back to that. I've been in the beverage business now for 23 years this year. First in soft drinks, but more or less altogether almost 20 years, directly or indirectly involved in beers. I was born here in Iceland, studied business in the US, where I got to know a little bit craft beer, and fortunately I've been able to follow that more closely in the last few years. I'm not going to tell my life story here, we're not here to do that, so maybe over to Baldur.
Okay.
Yes, hello, nice to be here. My name is Baldur Karason, and I'm the head brewer here at the Viking Brewery, which we are making Einstök. I was actually one of the first person in Iceland to study brewing, or the second one, in fact. I studied brewing in Scotland, Edinburgh. But at the time when I started working, we were making Löwenbräu from Germany, so I got to know quite well the German beer tradition as well, and spent some time in Munich with Löwenbräu.
Okay.
But I've been now working here almost 30 years now at the brewery.
So it means from the beginning on?
Yeah.
Okay. So Gudjon, tell us, when was Einstök founded? And is it true that 3 Americans founded the brand?
Yeah, that's very true. And originally, one of the Americans came to Iceland, in search of the world's best water, because his intention in the beginning were to launch a water brand out of Iceland. But fortunately, water turned to beer in the process, because his partners he brought on, when they came to Iceland and got to know a little bit more about the country and realized the potential in the US. They turned their focus to use this great water to make great beer. And this was in 2009 that, kind of the process started, actually a little bit earlier with the water. But in 2009, they started this quest for the beer. And we sold our first beer here in Iceland in 2011.
Okay. And what was the first beer?
We launched with the white ale and the pale ale simultaneously. So these were the first two, and very soon the toasted porter and the doppelbock. A couple of months later as our first seasonal beer.
Okay. So then I would say, let's start with the first beer, because I guess we are all thirsty a little bit, and then we talk a little bit about the brewery, the process, ingredients of the beer.
So about time.
So the first beer is the iconic white ale. Cheers. Up to enough.
Yeah, cheers.
So Baldur, now it's your stage. Tell us all you know about the beer and why you started with a white ale up in the northern.
Well, that was originally the idea of the founders. Okay. The Americans who wanted a white ale because they had believed in that beer style could be successful, and asked me to develop a recipe for it, which I did.
So there's a fun maybe factor on that. Originally, it was Blue Moon was at this time becoming very popular in the US, and one of our founders, Jack Sifterman, who was beer geek himself, and really studied the beer market in the US. He felt like a very interesting beer, very interesting style, but I'm sure that we can make a better version of this beer. And so he brought in a lot of references to Baldur, and I remember some of this, especially the Allagas White, which was kind of his favorite. So that was one of the references, but closer to the, getting it more mainstream. So I remember when Baldur made the first, the whole team came from the US, and there was a tasting at the brewery. And if I remember correctly, Baldur had developed 3 different versions of the beer that he gave everybody to taste. And the Allagas one was the 4th or even the 5th sample people got. And I remember, and I have a picture somewhere, when we stood up from the table, that all the samples Baldur made, they had been finished out of every single glass, but there was always everybody left something of the Allagas, So that's a great beer, but that's just to say how well Baldur did with the first trials he did. But sorry to interrupt, Baldur, you can maybe tell us a little bit more about it.
But it's a good story. Good to know, Gudjon.
So it's like traditional white ale, so it's mostly made of wheat, malted wheat, and then we have some oats as well, so give added smoothness to the mouthfeel and how it feels when you're drinking it. And it is spiced with, just like originally from Hogarden, is spiced with coriander and orange peel.
And you use the same spices? So also orange peel is inside, coriander is inside? Or is there something typical from Iceland as well, maybe? Some spice?
No, apart from the water, of course, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so our quest was in the beginning to make, the best white ale available, and I believe Baldur, in my opinion, of course I'm biased, in my opinion, he really nailed that.
Mm-hmm. The first question is coming. Flo is asking, Baldur, where is this rich fruitiness coming from in this beer?
Both from the coriander and the orange peel, but I think mostly the coriander.
And also the yeast, I think, play a big role, huh? To bring out this really fruity kind
of... Yes, but actually it's not by producing much flavor, but it plays a big role in being neutral. So it does not add much, it doesn't mask out any of the flavors from the spices. In many Belgian white ales, the character from the yeast is very dominant, so it takes over a bit the flavor from the spices. But here, the yeast is neutral, does not add much flavor, so you can really taste the spices.
Okay, and is the yeast something you're producing at your home? So you're cultivating the yeast, or did you buy it from somewhere?
We buy it, but we keep cultivate as well in the brewery, but we always bring in fresh culture as well.
And how often do you use the yeast?
Depends on the type of yeast, but from 4 to 10 times.
Okay.
For the white ale, it's around 4 times.
Okay.
But,
and how long you storage the beer in the tank?
Not long. It's usually around 3 weeks, the process.
Okay, that's good. And then tell us a little bit about the brew house. How big is the brew house? How big is the brewery? Or how big is your team around you?
Well, at the brewery, there work about 30 people. And our brew house is 8,000 liters. Mm-hmm. And we run the brew house, when we are brewing, we run 24 hours on 3 shifts in the brewing. And we do 7-8 brews per 24 hours. Okay,
and that means you have 5 days or 7 days? So it's going from Monday to Monday?
5 days.
5 days, so weekends
are off.
Ah, that's good. And bottling, bottles, you have your own bottling line? Yeah.
Yes. We have one combined filling line for bottles and cans, and then we have kegs.
Okay, that's good. And the brew house itself, it's a German brew house, or from where you get the brew house?
Yeah, it's a Steinecker or Krones today.
So really good and expensive one.
Yes. It was renovated we installed it new in the year 2000, and it kind of still feels like new.
Okay, that's cool. That's German quality, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Christina is asking where you get or where you research your raw materials, because I guess barley it's hard to grow in Iceland. So you get it in from Germany, or from where you get barley, hops, and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, until now there has not been much barley growing in Iceland, only for animal feed. But actually, due to the warmer climate, it's actually possible to grow quite good barley now. So who knows, maybe in the future we will start using Icelandic barley. But today we use mostly from Scandinavia, from Denmark, and some of the specialty malt we get from Poland, and also from England.
In England, so Danish, barley, okay. So nothing from Germany or from Belgium or countries like this?
Like in a toasted porter, we import from Weiermann in Hamburg, Germany.
Yeah. And the hops you're sourcing from where? Germany, America?
Traditionally, we are a lager brewery, and we have then always used German hops from Hallertau. But from some of the, of course, the pale ales, and we also do some IPAs and all this stuff. We use US hops for traditional US hops for that.
Yeah. Gudjon, how high is the percentage of the white ale when it comes to the total outcome from the brewery, percentage-wise?
The last I checked, it was around half of all our volume, and even above that now. Isn't that true, Baldur?
Yeah, I expect so. I have not checked, but yeah, it's the far biggest.
Yeah, it's even growing in relative importance for us, and this is in every single market. This is our biggest selling beer, and this is our legacy beer, as the Americans would say.
Also in Austria, I can tell you this. It's by far the biggest.
This is a beer that has won some very prestigious award for us as well. Like the latest award we got. There haven't been too many competitions we've sent in for the since COVID, but I think it was in 2018. The last big one we entered was the New York Beer Challenge or International Beer Competition. I can't remember what they call it, but that's where we got a double gold for this beer. So basically meaning that all the industry, the judges, all beer sommeliers, they all agreed, this beer got the top rating. So we were one of, I think, only 4 beers that got double gold at that competition. So, another kind of, proof, how great a job, Baldur and his team are doing with this beer.
That's what I want to tell. Congratulations to Baldur and his team. So, Baldur, Manfred is asking, what kind of package you prefer as a brewer? Is it the bottle or is it the can?
It depends a bit on the occasion. Cans are very practical, of course. If you are on the move or taking the beer with you, traveling or something, the cans are much more convenient. But I think the bottle is still a bit premium package. Like if you want to enjoy a glass sitting with a beer bottle on the glass, it's always it's a more premium feeling that you get than drinking out of a can.
But okay, I got this point. But then for the beer itself, quality-wise, what do you as package? When you're not talking about
it depends a little bit on the fillers that you have, actually. But the cans are better in the way that they protect the beer from light. So if you have hoppy beers, sunlight and even artificial lighting can spoil the beer or break down the hops and give you a strange smell, especially. And of course, that does not happen with the canned beer. Usually, bottles, bottle fillers have less oxygen, but because of the lower exposure to, because it's smaller opening.
I got this point. But now the new fillers,
it depends on the fillers.
Yeah, that's what I want to tell you. Because now the newest versions, of the can fillers, they are doing a phenomenal job.
They are very good, very good. It has changed a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Gudjon, what Reinhard is asking, what actually means Einstök translated? What means Einstök?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Einstök means unique or one of a kind in Icelandic. And that's actually, what we are. It's quite unique to have a beer from Iceland, especially in markets outside of Iceland. So I think we are, living up to our name in that respect. And it's a interesting story. I think how it came about, because the founders, they wanted to find an Icelandic name for the beer or for the brand that would be, could be pronounced, relatively easily in English. And one of the requirements was it had to have one special Icelandic character. So, kind of to make it quirky and interesting. And so, a lot of names were proposed, but Jack, who I mentioned earlier, he was flying to the US from one of the visits when we were developing the beer. And by the way, at that time, I was working with the brewery that Baldur is the brewmaster for, so I was heading marketing and sales there. So I was working on the project originally from the brewery, but now, with Einstök, which taking care of the exports. But and he saw this headline in a magazine that had this word, Einstök. And so when he landed, he called and spelled out the name and said, what does this mean? And I told him, what it meant. And he said, yep, we have a name. And originally, most of us here in Iceland were a little bit skeptical of this name because, usually beer brands, it's a noun, it's a masculine noun. So like Viking, or something like that. Einstök is, it's an adjective, so, and it's feminine. So we were a bit afraid that big guys, would not go into a bar and ask for one Einstök. Yeah, so they would feel it was a little bit feminine, but that was never an issue. So it was only our opinion, it has never been an issue here in Iceland. And I think the name has, served the brand very well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So unique was a good question, Reinhard. Thank you for asking this. Baldur, next question is coming to you. Manfred is asking, it's a white ale, it's clear now for us, but Manfred is asking, is it more a wheat or a Hefeweizen for you?
It's a wheat.
It's a wheat.
Yeah. In Hefeweizen, you normally have, or I associate it much more with German yeast that give this banana character.
And it's more intense, it's more carbonated, so that's also kind of a difference, and then normally it's more cloudy.
Yeah, yes.
Because more, so I also see the wheat. One more sip. Because it's really slim, it's fruity, it's a really, really good beer. Congratulations to you again. Okay, before we go to the next beer, Gudjon, there are people asking for glasses, merchandise. So I can tell you guys that it's not the easiest thing to get something shipped because most of the POS, it's coming from the States. Is this right?
Yeah, we have a brand shop, at einstokbeer.com in the US. And that's our biggest brand. And that's where that's where our merchandise shop is. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a challenge, but glassware we have produced for markets in Europe, and some limited range of the merchandise is available from Iceland. But hopefully we can get some more to beer lovers, at some point, so we can.
Okay, yeah, sell some. Also, Teresa and Victor. Teresa, glasses shouldn't be a big problem to get down to Austria. Victor, merchandise, as you heard.
Yeah.
It's possible from Iceland, but Gudjon and I try to get as much as possible done for you guys. And then, of course, you can get it over our web shop or in our store. But we will find a solution.
The glassware we use, like here in Iceland, is we use this tulip glass for pretty much all. We recommend this for all our styles. So
Okay.
So this is what we have in some markets.
Good. Okay. Then I would say, let's get to the next beer, which is the pale ale.
Yep. Looks nice.
Yeah, it looks really nice. It's got these orange colors with a nice white head. Really stable foam. Balanced, hoppy. Now you can get the hop flavor. So, Baldur, tell us about your second beer.
Yeah, this is a traditional American pale ale.
Mm-hmm.
So it has brewed from pale ale malt and some crystal malt or caramel malt, and then hopped with one of the most iconic US hops, Cascade, which gives this hoppiness. It is hopped mostly in the whirlpool after the boiling, and that gives more of the aroma and a bit less bitterness.
The bitterness, yeah.
But this is one of my favorite beers. I can always have a pale ale because it's and it's I think it's a fairly well balanced with robust hops, but mixed with a firm malty backbone or what.
And what kind of malt is inside, or what kind of barley?
Yeah, it's pale ale malt and some crystal or caramel malt.
Caramel.
And that gives this toffee caramelly notes underneath.
On the taste.
Yeah.
And I think, to this, that it kind of, I always describe it as, like Baldur described it, traditional American, of the American style, but it's still kind of, it meets the English style very nicely, I think, because how it, the malt and the hoppiness, it balances so well out, so for me, the highlight of this beer is how balanced it is. It's relatively malty, but still you have the very nice hoppy notes coming through without being too bitter.
Yeah, it's really well balanced, as you told, because there's this body, and the body stays against this really intense hoppy aroma, and so it's more or less more an English style pale ale. I completely agree.
And I had one of the biggest compliments for our beers from it was a Spanish brewmaster who was at a beer festival in Munich, if I remember correctly, and he especially sought out our booth, when he realized there was beer from Einstök, and asked me to give compliments to Baldur, for the pale ale, because he said this is a beer style that is, if you make any mistakes in the process, it will show in the beer. There's nothing to hide it, like, in an IPA or something. And he said, I've had multiple of these. It's one of my favorite beers, and I never had any off taste in it, So I think that was a very big compliment and highlights, how delicate this beer is to brew. And, Baldur does an amazing job with this beer.
Teresa is writing, she really can smell the Arctic Sea in this beer, so she really gets into Iceland now when she drinks it and tastes it.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's really nice. Nice one. Baldur, tell us a little bit, beside this beer, how it was, because as I wrote and as far as I know, it's not a long time ago that it was kind of forbidden to brew beer. Huh? Can you tell us a little bit about this, when it started to get legal to brew beers higher than 2.5, and so historical wise, how it was in Iceland?
Yeah, like in 1915 or so, there was a complete alcohol prohibition in Iceland, like in many other countries. And Gradually, it was lifted. First, because of trade influence, we sold a lot of fish to Spain and Portugal, and they wanted us to buy something in return. And of course, then it was the wines that they wanted to sell. So first wines were allowed, and then spirits, but beer somehow got left behind.
Okay.
And there were many attempts to get it legalized through the parliament, but there was a strong movement against it. And it was not until 1989 that it succeeded.
Okay.
And then we had the big beer day, B-Day.
Okay.
1st of March 1989.
So that was the official date when it was kind of legal to brew beer. So always first
legal to sell.
Sell. Okay. Because it was legal, some kind of home brews were legal, that the people brew their own beer, but they were not allowed to sell it.
Yeah, you could brew beer if you were like for export, and that kept the breweries brewing tradition was kept alive by that, because you could export to the duty free, and if you traveled, you were allowed to buy beer.
Okay.
When you were coming into the country, you could buy like 1 case of beer.
And that was it.
Yes. And then I could brew low alcohol beer, the 2.25%.
Unbelievable. Because it's, it's 20 years ago.
Yeah, 30 years
ago it was.
We still celebrate the the beer day every year.
1st of March. Cool. And now, how many breweries are existing in Iceland?
Today, I don't know the exact number. For a long time, there were only 2 breweries in Iceland. But now there's like been this explosion of craft breweries. Mm-hmm. So I think registered breweries are around 30, 40, or somewhere between 30 and 50 in Iceland. That's a lot for this small country. Mm-hmm. But some of them are like gypsy breweries, or not operating the whole year.
Okay. Gypsy brewing, you also allow some brewers to come to brew in your brewery now?
Yeah, we do some collabs, yes.
But you're not giving your brewery to any gypsy brewers, that they brew their own beer?
No, not.
Okay. Manfred is asking, is 0.3 the biggest packaged beer in Iceland, or you also can find 0.5 or 0.44 or 0.6?
0.5 is very, very common in cans.
Which size?
0.5.
0.5. So it's similar to here in Austria. Similar to
in lagers, it's 0.5 is dominant in sales in the monopoly.
Gudjon, beer and food, we forgot to talk about the White Ale because people are already asking. We have an Icelandic evening tonight, so I would say, is there some, back to the White Ale, what do you recommend when it comes, is it fish, or what do you recommend for pairing with White Ale?
Yeah, for me, White Ale goes well with many types of fish, but White Ale is the best match for me is with spicy food, and especially like somehow, if you have spicy Asian food, it's a perfect match. Mm-hmm. And for a while, our biggest selling outlet in California, at least, was a Chinese restaurant in San Francisco called Mission Chinese, and they would recommend our White Ale with their spicy, dishes. Mm-hmm. So we sold a lot of White Ale in a Chinese restaurant in the US, which you would probably not guess for an Icelandic beer. So yeah, that's my favorite pairing, and I've had that a few times, and it's really, it somehow manages to tone down and match kind of the at the same time the spicy notes.
Okay. And the pale ale?
Yeah, I would, I tend to kind of pair the pale ale to different things. For me, let's say a gastro kind of food, so if you have something like, a good burger or even like, chicken wings and stuff like that, I think it's very good. But pretty much with all, like if you have some fat in the food, it's really good with that somehow to open up the food. So it even goes well with a steak, in my opinion.
Also burger, so it's a classical beer style, as Baldur mentioned, you also can drink it alone. It's easy, it's balanced, it's really enjoyable,
And that's one thing, we emphasize when we develop a new style, and, from day one, we've emphasized, that our beers pair well with food, so that's one of the reasons we haven't done a very hoppy IPA or something, that's really out there, because we want our beers to pair well with food. And we even went as far, a few years ago, and we trademarked the term, the chef's beer. So we own that, term worldwide. Nobody else can use the chef's beer except us.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, I did not even know that.
So
you learned something. Even you learned something.
Yes.
Aiga, Manfred is asking, what kind of hops? We already talked about Cascade. Are there any additional hops inside this pale ale?
Yeah, there are some German hops as well, most notably Northern Brewer.
Northern Brewer, okay. Johannes is asking, are there a lot of outlets which are serving draft Einstök beer? And I can tell you, Johannes, not really. There's one in Vienna where you can find it permanently, but overall, it's really difficult to get free draft lines in Austria. And so that's our biggest challenging thing, is that people don't have any contracts with bigger breweries. And so it's really, really hard to sell Einstök on draft here in Austria. But on the other hand, it's available in bottles at Rewe and Merkur, so I don't want to promote them, but if you want to find them, it's kind of easy to get the hands on, especially on the white ale. Okay. Then I would say, let's try the Doppelbock.
Got one in the can here, you
have the can. We also got some, for the first time, we get this year some Doppelbock cans into Austria.
Yeah.
But tonight we have still the bottle.
It's only available in the US,
yeah, but also some in Austria. Some are also available in Austria.
Oh, very good, very good.
A few cases. White ale, pale ale, and Doppelbock.
Nice.
And now soon, because there was already the question about the Arctic Lager, it will arrive in Austria, I would say by the end of January, it will be also available here in Austria.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah. So by the way, cheers, it got this really intense kind of color with a cream head, also really stable foam. Tell us about this beer.
This is Einstok's Christmas beer in the US. And this a Doppelbock, which means it's a bit higher alcohol content. So although it's rather low in terms of the style, it's 6.7%. And the base malt
is the lowest which is allowed to still call it a Doppelbock, huh?
Yeah, well, there is no actual law against it, but
but the regulation,
maybe in Germany, but not not in other countries, or I don't know about Austria, but there are no laws, for instance, in Iceland, what you can call the beer or how you classify them.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is at the lower range normally what you find in alcohol for a Doppelbock.
Well, because normally it goes 8, 8.5, 9 for a Doppelbock.
Yeah. And up to that you can find icebox.
That's true.
But here the base malt is Munich malt, and that gives most of the character in the beer. So you have this smooth maltiness and sweetness with some toffee and chocolate notes. That comes from, all comes from the malt. There is not a lot of hops in this style of beer, so it's just a little bit for the base bitterness, but otherwise it's the main player is the malt.
It really has this rich, malty flavor, smoothness. Still, it's really kind of easy to drink, because the alcohol is really hidden inside the body. So it's...
Yeah, I think it was been like the goal with most of the Einstök beer is to make them drinkable. So even if it's this style of beer is very often very heavy to drink. You can have a glass, but it's hard to drink a bottle because it's can be sweet and just you feel quite full after drinking. But I think we have managed to make it a rather drinkable version of the Doppelbock.
Easy to drink a bottle of this Doppelbock.
Yeah, and that's another to what, that's another emphasis, when we develop beers, and, from day one, all our beers should be, we say, we want them to be deliciously refreshing. So delicious beers made with the finest ingredients and, craftsmanship, but refreshing and approachable. So nothing too aggressive, so.
Too complex, too difficult to drink,
Yeah. So that's, our aim. So we would say if you had a continuum, of craft beers from mainstream to extreme, we would be closer to mainstream than the extreme. That's always our goal, in terms of the aggressiveness of the beers.
Okay. Michael is writing that we step a little bit back from the beer now. Corporate identity of Einstök is one of the best he ever saw in his entire life, So labeling, design, it's kind of really, really cool and outstanding. I completely agree, when it comes, because the Viking, is kind of the icon, and then it's always kind of the same artwork, labeling, design.
Yeah, thanks for that, appreciate that. It's from day one, I think one of the, foundations of the beer and, how well it's done. I mean, we're in 25 or 6 different countries, and in the US we're in 25 states, so we're quite a good footprint. And I think it has to do with the original work done by Jack Sigtman, our founder. He researched the craft beer market at the time very well and made a brand and beer that fitted well into the whole atmosphere, and everything was very well thought out. So I guess our best marketing job was done right in the beginning. And the concept and the whole label thing, first both the name and the Viking concept, when he was researching especially US craft beer market, he found out that, people who liked craft beer, they were very much, explorers at heart. These people, they like to try new things. They tend to travel more than the, average US person. They would speak more languages and much more open-minded kind of. And, he saw the similarity with the explorer element to the Vikings, who were, in their days, they were explorers. They were going, to explore, find new lands, new things. And basically, even though we know the Vikings mostly for their, fighting and, raping and pillaging, they were explorers. So that's, why we call our fans modern Vikings today. And hence the Viking, which is our emblem. But from day one, the emphasis of the design of the packaging was like the white ale, it's this simplistic approach to stick out of the shelves, because at the time and still, you see so many craft beer brands which have beautiful labeling, but very busy, a lot of different colors. Every, square centimeter of the label is kind of filled with something. So it was very intentional to keep the label quite simplistic, because when you look through a shelf, and I mean, in the US at the time, you would have in some beverage or, like alcohol stores, you would have whole aisles of craft beer. When your eye wanders, you tend to stop at these kind of, something that sticks out. And, then the concept is strange, it's hard to pronounce maybe. And, this Viking and Einstök, what is this? You pick up a bottle, you become curious. It's a beer from Iceland. You try it, and then, the liquid is not, it's very kind of approachable. So we're fortunate that a decent proportion of people will actually come back and pick up more. So, that's kind of the whole way it works for us,
Yeah, but it makes completely sense, because especially in the States, when you walk into some liquor stores or craft beer stores, then it's kind of a wall out of artworks.
Yeah,
and then you get this iconic, really remarkable label with the Viking on it. But did you adapt the logo or the label since 2011, in the last 10 years?
Yeah, what we did, and we've played it a little bit, the basic design is still the same. We've simplified the design a little bit, because originally the Viking was very complicated to print, so a lot of different textures and stuff in it. But we play a little bit around with the Viking, and when it comes to the seasonals, like here in the, if you look at the Doppelbock, for example, the Viking has antlers and a red nose, basically Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. Our summer beer, like Arctic Berry Ale, which we don't have today, is, there the Viking has sunglasses. So we play a little bit, try to make that a little bit fun. But for the traditional styles, it's quite, we try to stay true to the origin, except for the Arctic lager. We played a little bit around with the Viking on the backside of the can. That's where we have we made it kind of out of ice crystals, so we're starting to play a little bit more with it, even on our score styles.
Okay, cool. Baldur, people are asking why the foam of this Doppelbock is so stable, why? What is the reason that it's so intense and stays so long inside the glass? Of course, we all know the glass must be clean, because otherwise this foam will disappear, but is there maybe something, especially for the homebrewers, is there a secret which you can tell them or offer them? What they must make sure to get a really stable foam like you got, especially in the Doppelbock?
Not really. It's this alcohol percentage is maybe a bit favorable for the foam. You have, of course, you need quite a lot of malt or the barley to get this alcohol up, but then you also get a lot of proteins, which contribute to the stableness of the foam.
Okay. And Mario, he is a brewer and he owns a brand here in Austria, and he comes out at 18 degrees Grad Plato. Normally a Doppelbock should have, regulation-wise. So that's what
it depends on the country.
Yeah, but
according to Germany, I guess, and the it's about
for especially when you will send beers to kind of competitions normally, and you will enter in the competition or in the classification of Doppelbock, then the minimum required is 18 degrees Plato. But he really likes your beer, so that's something I can tell you from Mario, who runs a really small brewery in the middle of Austria.
Yeah, I believe, we entered Doppelbock in Germany to Meininger, the craft beer competition. We got a silver there a few years ago. So
Cool. That shows something.
Proud of that.
Yeah. Every single medal you can be proud of.
It's a very German beer, very German beer style. So getting an award in Germany is good.
That's true. Food-wise, Gudjon, what do you recommend?
This, for me, this beer is perfect with game kind of, like things you shoot here in Iceland, like reindeer, Gamingan or whatever, however it's pronounced, basically grouse, from Scotland, that's quite traditional here for Christmas. So, it's perfect with this kind of food. And also just with the Icelandic Christmas kind of food, which tends to be smoked and salty. So for me, lack of lamb, smoked lack of lamb, it's perfect for that.
But I guess it can also go with some, sweets, with some desserts,
Definitely. Even though, the toasted porter is my favorite with sweet desserts, this definitely can handle that, for sure. So maybe Baldur has something to add to that, but for me, with the honky kjöt, which is our smoked like a lamb, it's just perfect.
Okay. Baldur, you agree with Gudjon?
Yes, it's of course sweet and malty, so it can compensate against the saltiness and the smoke.
Okay. Oh, Flo is asking for vegan food recommendations. Do you have something in mind, Gudjon, for vegan?
I'm not so familiar with that and haven't really explored it. But I guess, the same basic principles, if you have something, that's sweet or salty, this is a very good comparison, a good kind of, pairing. Same with, if you have something spicy, for the white ale and something like...
I can see this, the spiciness, some cauliflower, spicy cauliflower, for example, could be something for the white ale. Some smoked, vegetables for the Doppelbock. And then I don't know if tofu is kind of vegan. I really don't know because I'm not familiar, but then it can go with a tofu burger, the pale ale, for example.
Pale ale also, like I imagine, with a good, what do you call it, nut roast or something like that, that's could be that you have a little bit of fattiness in the nuts, so I without, I haven't tried it, but I think that could be a very good pairing.
So maybe we'll try some kind of vegan food in the future.
Yeah, don't have to, it's a good question. You have to experiment a little bit more with vegan food and because it's on the rise and, of course, beer pairs well with that, and all our beers are, are vegan, so, that's definitely something to look for.
Yeah. And then one more question to the Doppelbock. It's only available from October until when you release the beer normally?
Yeah, normally we release it around September, and it's available throughout Christmas. That's the traditional, but it varies a little bit by markets. Usually we start shipping them out of Iceland in maybe August, and we're done with shipping them in October. Some markets, like I know, for example, in Norway, they always, stock up to make sure they have it, like most part of the, year. So it varies a little bit. But our recommendation is from, let's say, late September until Christmas.
But it's also a perfect beer for Easter, Bock time, when you get something like, when you come together for Easter, for kind of an Easter brunch, it also goes perfectly.
Definitely. even with the chocolate, like there's a big chocolate tradition here in Iceland for Easter, so it goes well with that.
And also the Easter lamb, as you already mentioned, it's a favorite dish in Iceland for Christmas, but here in Austria, a lot of people eating lamb for Easter.
Yeah, that's traditional here as well. We eat lamb all year round. There are more sheep than people here, so we need to eat them.
Cool. Good. Then I would say we move on to one of your favorite beers, the Toasted Porter.
Yep, that's favorite beer. I often say that this is our best kept secret.
This beer, the recipe?
Yes, this is a kind of a mix between a stout and a porter.
Okay, that's why I use the stout glass, and it goes perfectly.
Yeah, so so Jack, one of the founders, he decided to call it toasted porter, which is has more roastiness and toastiness than some of the normal porters. So it's a kind of a in between stout and porters.
Okay.
And this in this beer we use the German Weimar malt, and actually it's the malt that gives most of this kind of almost coffee-like flavor. So it's if you compare to the coffee, this is more like an espresso.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Baltic style, since Baldur brews it with lager yeast.
Mm.
It's makes it so light and drinkable, and that's one of the reasons we use the slogan. Don't be afraid of the dark with this beer, because we get so many people who are say they don't really like dark beers, but they when I get those people, I say try this beer, you will like it, because it's very easygoing and approachable for us.
So it's a Baltic porter, so it's a bottom fermented.
Yeah, it's basically lager yeast.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. What kind of, Baldur, tell us a little bit about recipe. What is inside?
So it's the roasted barley we use is what is called a dehuxed barley. So the husk of the barley has been removed, and so it gives a smoother flavor. Normal roasted malt can give a bit of harshness or harsh bitterness, but in this special malt that we use when the husk has been removed, so you get a bit more, less of the harsh bitterness and more of the nicer roasted flavors.
Okay. And how long you lager it?
For all our beers, the lagering time is not very long. The total processing time is around 3 weeks.
Oh. Okay. Christian is asking you if you plan to experiment, or maybe you already do, experimentations with flavors. You're using some kind of non-really typical flavors to add into the beer? Are there some
We have done quite innovative beers. One of the Einstök beer, for instance, is a juniper pils, where we use Icelandic juniper and lime.
Okay. So you use this for pils because there's another question, are you planning to brew any pils? So that means you already did the pils and you added lime and juniper.
Yes.
Okay.
It's been available in the US and Iceland, especially for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. But is there not a Okay, sorry.
For this beer, we did one, just one small season here in Iceland. We did, it was for October, I think, 1 year. We did a version of this particular beer with coconut and cocoa. So we called it Island Porter. This basically was like a Caribbean take on this beer. So it tasted like a Bounty bar, really nice beer.
Cool. But coming back to the pils, how does it turn out? Is it then more or less like Radler, when you add lime and juniper to the pils, Baldur?
No. In Radlers you normally have a lot of sweetness.
Yeah.
So, but this is much more dry, just like a traditional pilsner.
Okay.
And juniper gives almost kind of a hoppy bitterness to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the lime just adds to the freshness.
Yeah.
Okay. But you not want to brew or release a kind of normal pilsner? Because that's what we can see, and also Manfred is asking, because the demand of pilsner and helles and lager beers is quite high at the moment. And you, with your knowledge, back from Germany, Löwenbräu and all that kind of thing, so I'm pretty sure you know how to brew a proper lager or a kind of a pils.
Yeah, Baldur does a lot of lagers, under the Viking brand here in Iceland. So and pilses, and so he does other more traditional beers here in, which are only available locally for sure.
Okay.
But a little bit back to the, lime and juniper pils. The original inspiration for that beer was, gin and tonic, kind of. So there's a cocktail-inspired beer.
Okay.
And originally, when we launched it here in Iceland, we called it G&T pils. And you could really, especially the nose was very much, gin and tonic. Mm-hmm. And that's why, the juniper kind of, gave you the gin notes and the lime, the tonic kind of, so it was, for me, it was a very interesting beer, light, but still with this hint of gin and tonic taste. But when we started exporting it to the US, we couldn't call it G&T anymore because that was not an actual ingredient. So that's why, we went back and called it lime and juniper pils.
Got you. But Baldur, give me an answer on pils and lager. If you see in demand, especially in these days, where that kind of beer style is getting more and more popular again. Is it something you want to do?
Yeah, it's something that we actually are doing. We have the Arctic lager, of course, and that one is, you could call it pils if you wanted to, because it has a lot of generous hop addition, and there we are using the hybrid style, because we are using the American hops in a traditional German style of beer. So doing pils and lagers is something that we are already doing.
Okay.
But it feels that I think you need to do something to make it stand out, and that's why I make it a bit different from just the normal lagers and pils that you can get at the supermarket. So in the Arctic lager, we are using the citra that gives a really nice citrus freshness to the beer.
Yeah, the citra creole to kind of add to the bitterness a little bit.
In the G&T pils, what kind of hops you used?
It's a mixture of Bavarian and American hops. We used the Hallertauer tradition and also some Citra.
Okay. Makes sense. Gudjon, can you tell us market share Einstök? How big is the market share in Iceland for Einstök?
Last I knew, I don't have the most, accurate data since, I'm focusing on sales in Europe and, exports to the US to a certain, we're above 1% of the total beer market, so for a craft beer brand, I think that's very high, and we're definitely by far the biggest selling craft beer in Iceland. Of course, the market here, like in so many other countries in Europe, is very dominated by lagers. So you would see, 90-something%, being lagers. So the rest of, us, the smaller guys, we're competing for only a few percentage of the market. So, at the, we've even been at, above 1.5%, I think, at our peak. So going down slightly with more, which is very good. There is more domestic competition and, more breweries coming every year, which, is very good for the market, and a lot of very interesting things happening in the craft beer scene here in Iceland. A lot of new and great breweries coming out. So that's what we are. Of course, in all our export markets, we are very small players and niche players, everywhere. So.
Okay, but then the country is dominated by Heineken, AB InBev or Carlsberg. Who is the biggest player from the big ones in Iceland?
Out of the imports, it's probably the Danish ones, so Carlsberg and Tuborg, the same company. They traditionally have had brewing partners in Iceland, so they've been brewing under license here for many decades. So of the international brands, they have traditionally been the biggest. Baldur knows this may be better of the imports now. I mean, Heineken is decent, and Becks and all these guys.
Yeah, you see all the global players on the Icelandic markets.
Okay.
And Stella, the Belgian one, is quite popular as well.
Yeah, it's grown a lot in the last few years, especially.
Okay. I think they invest a lot into the market.
They do, and of course, they're playing in a different, they play a different ball game, than us.
That's true. That's true. Porter, food recommendation?
For me, I mean, it's I drink this with a good steak, and like I said earlier, for me, chocolate cake, like a French-style chocolate cake, very sweet. This is perfect with that. So when I go out for dinner, if they have a toasted porter, I will order that with my dessert if it's sweet. But I tend to use this beer as well, when I make a sauce. So this is very good addition to that, and even as a marinade, I tend to use this for everything. So
yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, but with a good, like good beef, steak, this is, I really like it.
Also for barbecue, in the summertime, you can use easily a porter,
Yeah.
Pair it with a steak. Baldur, what is the major difference between a Baltic porter or a normal porter? Because people are asking now, what's the difference? Because for them it tastes like it's a porter. What's the major difference between Baltic and normal porter?
Well, we were talking about the styles regulation before. So the regulation for a Baltic porter is that it has to be brewed with lager yeast. And lager yeast are normally more neutral than ale yeasts. So Baltic porters are less fruity.
Okay.
So you can really taste the flavors from the barley and the roastiness, and without being interfered with the
kind of blueberries which you're getting normally out of normal porters, all these black fruits. And now with a Baltic porter, you get more of this coffee taste roastiness.
Yes, exactly.
That's a good description, yeah. Gudjon, there's a question coming. If you're using geothermal energy, Icelandic geothermal energy for the brewery?
Yeah, I mean, the whole electric grid here in Iceland uses here geothermal or hydroelectric power. So that's the only electricity that goes into the brewery. So yeah, it's all renewable sources.
Okay.
And they also at the brewery, they claim the CO2, and so we try to soften our CO2 footprint as much as we can. Of course, being in Iceland and having to ship everything overseas still, it's not ideal for environmental purposes, but we take the steps we can to try to minimize that.
Cool. That's good to hear.
And here in Iceland, it's a big advantage having the renewable energy here, and like I said, everything that goes into production and houses all the electricity is made from renewable sources. And one of the advantages of living in Iceland for sure.
Baldur, coming back now, question: are you filtering the beers, or you have a centrifuge? How you deal with this kind of things?
Yeah, we do both. We have a centrifuge, and all our beers go through a centrifuge.
Okay.
And then some beers are also filtered.
Okay. So I guess the white ale it's filtered, or it goes to the centrifuge?
It's only a centrifuge.
Okay. The pale ale?
It is filtered.
Okay. Doppelbock?
Centrifuge.
Okay. Porter?
Centrifuge.
Okay. Cool.
And it doesn't make much sense in filtering the dark beers because you can't see it anyway. So
yeah, that's true.
all dark beers is just a centrifuge.
Good. Then I would say we move on.
The only beer filtered of the line is pale ale.
Okay. Yeah.
But we might change it. I don't know.
Okay. Good. Then we go into the last beer. Scotch ale, Wee Heavy. Huh? And again, the foam is so stable, so nice. So Baldur, again, balanced, nice taste, kind of smoky taste, smokiness a little bit inside. Tell us a little bit about this beer.
Yeah, Scotch beer or Wee Heavy is quite high in alcohol as a beer style. So it's here we have 8% alcohol and above 18 Plato, original gravity. We have the base malt is pale ale malt and then crystal. Quite a lot of crystal malt as well, or caramel malt. And Traditionally in Scotland, this was often flavored with some spices or what you could find available in a neighborhood. So in this beer, this beer is also spiced with Icelandic Angelica, and which goes in the whirlpool. And we also use some Icelandic barley in this one.
Okay.
It's not a malt. It's not barley malt. It's just barley, which has been smoked. So it's not a big percentage, but it's enough to give some hint of smoke in the taste.
You must be really careful with smoked barley, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this barley is smoked with Icelandic birch trees, and it's grown and smoked by a whiskey distillery, a local whiskey distillery in Iceland. So we collaborate with them on the barley. So very nice experience. Experimented it a few years back. This is what 2016, I think, we launched this beer.
Okay.
This is one of my favorites. This is, you could say that this is the most Icelandic, and kind of the most crafty beer we do, in that sense, it's not the most usual style you will find. And there are these two local ingredients, apart from the water. So both the bird smoked barley and the Angelica root, which also links to the Viking heritage, because folklore says that the Vikings, they used the Angelica root as a currency back in the days, because people believed and still believe that there is healing power in the Angelica root. It's supposed to heal a lot of different things. Of course, not in the amount it is in the beer. So I'm not saying this beer is medicinal, but yeah, it's that's how it originated, and it's a very sought after plant even still today. And I believe it adds a lot. You can kind of get the anise notes of it, and especially I guess in the aftertaste of the beer. So it for me it adds quite a bit to the drinkability of this rather high ABV beer.
There's a question coming in. Teresa is asking, are you have plans, Baldur, to release new beers soon or in the future?
We are always, of course, looking into all possibilities. But that's also more maybe a question for Gudjon.
Yeah.
If they want.
We are working with Baldur now on two a little bit different summer flavors, which we tend to launch our beers to use the home market in Iceland as a test market. So there are two new summer beers we like to try this summer. So we can't quite reveal how about these, but they are under development, and hopefully we can launch both of them here in let's say April. But unfortunately, we most likely won't be able to ship them to Europe until next year. But who knows? If we, hit a home run right away, we might make them available. Let's see. No promise, but I won't.
Everything is possible.
Won't say no either.
Yeah. Gudjon, when people are coming to Iceland, where they can find your beers? Do you have some tap rooms, or the beers are only available if they want to get it out from the brewery, which is 5 hours drive or 40-minute fly, what I learned?
Yeah. Fortunately, we partner here with our brewery, and the people there, they are quite big in the Icelandic market, and they distribute our beers in Iceland. So I would say in about half the restaurants and bars you will find our beers, and even more, because about 70% of all outlets in Iceland, you will find our beers. There are two, though in special, there is a Echtzeit bar here in the main shopping street in Iceland, which is dedicated to our beers. You will find many of them on draft and all of them on bottles or cans. A very nice place to sit down and enjoy a few beers at the best place in Reykjavik. And then we have in Akureyri what we call the Brewers Lounge, which is a small kind of place within another place in Akureyri, which kind of hidden gem there, where you can go and we have a sampling axe, so basically based on our some of our brand emblems, you can get axe which has 4 different small samplers of our beer and enjoy it there at the hometown of Einstök, and you will never find a fresher beer than right next to the brewery. So that's one of the things that sets that place apart. It's always minty fresh.
Yeah, but now we know 5 hours by car from Reykjavik or 40 minutes flight.
Yeah, that's up
to the brewery.
That's where the brewery is. Right up north, not too far from the Arctic Circle.
Okay, cool. Baldur, the brewer, which is watching and listening, tells congratulations to Wee Heavy. It is his favorite beer at the evening. Okay. So even it's so high in ABV, he can drink it easily.
Yeah,
all night. Yeah.
Thank you. Good to know.
There's a question coming out. There's a brewery in Austria, or it's kind of a technique, to take granite stones to caramelize the beer. Maybe you're familiar with this when you were in Germany. And so the question is, if you have some kind of ideas or plans to use lava or volcano stones to caramelize one of your beers?
No, not at the moment. This is very kind of a troublesome method of doing things. So we don't have plans for that yet.
Okay, because why it's kind of bringing you in trouble?
Yes.
But you're not allowed to use the volcano or the lava stones because they protected, or are you afraid get kind of an infection, or what is the reason you're not planning it or want to try it?
Yeah, it's basically very troublesome to do. Okay. And you can't just bring in the lava stone. We don't have hot lava like in the presence of the brewery. And
you can gonna heat them up.
You have to heat up the stones, bring it into the brewery and dumping it in, and then you have to remove it. It's it's more for small craft brewers than
big production brewery.
Yes.
Okay. But maybe that could be an idea for us, Baldur, to experiment. One of our former colleagues, Julius, who worked in our marketing department way back, he has developed a method, where they take lava and they melt it up, and you can go into an exhibition room where there is lava flowing. So they're actually producing lava, So maybe you can connect with him and get some hot lava to do some interesting stuff.
Yeah, there's always a way, Be creative, especially when you have a small kit where you can experiment for the brewers. Maybe they're younger brewers, and so they're always normally open to try things.
Something we will definitely consider.
Yeah. And another question is coming. There are a lot of questions coming tonight, which is a cool thing. Are you offering tours through the brewery?
I'm not able to do that yet, just because the brewery is, it's more or less operating around the clock, and there are no facilities to go through the, brewery without kind of jeopardizing the hygienic standards and the quality systems and all that, So we haven't been able to figure out how to do it without interfering with the production. But who knows, hopefully there will be, ways to do that in the future, but at the moment, we cannot offer that, unfortunately.
It's our dream and goal to have a tap room here at the brewery.
Okay.
And hopefully some way to peek into the production without, going too close.
To offer some to us. Water, Baldur. You filter the water, you treat the water, or is it just natural out of the mountains?
We don't treat the water at all. That's the main benefit of brewing here. So we don't have to do anything to the water.
Okay.
We add a little bit of calcium salts. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing to bring up the mineral content because it's so clean. But without, apart from that, there is no treatment of the water. And it is even free flowing from the mountain above the town to the brewery. So it's not even pumped.
Yeah, it's good part of it is artisanal. I guess it's called.
Cool. One day we all have to visit.
All welcome for sure.
The brewery. Okay. Is there something from you guys you want to spread?
Yeah, we covered a lot. I guess, I just very happy to see the footprint we have in Austria. I mean, it's been there a few times and love being at the festivals you guys do, and hope to that Baldur can join me one of these days. I think it will be fun for him, and a lot of interesting discussions there, and
a lot of international connections, domestic connections we can do.
One of the greatest festivals I've been to for sure.
Cool. Before we come to an end, and I slightly forgot to talk about food with Wee Heavy. Recommendations, what you recommend? Food-wise, to Wee Heavy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, this with smoked food, this would be very, very good, and so again, it's touching some of the same areas as the Doppelbock did, for me personally. Baldur, this is
but the steak, it could be perfect, really, because it cuts the fat, so with a really intense kind of brown, black kind of meat, for me, it would go perfectly.
Yeah. Well, how would people, pair the Wee Heavies in Scotland,
with Hackness.
The Hackness,
Yeah. Right. Are you not planning any barrel-aged program to start in Iceland with your beers, especially when it came out from...
We have done it for ourselves.
Yeah, we experimented a little with, the people at Einberg, where we get our barley from. So we got, for example, the first single malt whiskey barrels they did, which we experimented a little bit with. So both our Doppelbock and Wee Heavy, especially the Doppelbock was exquisite, through these barrels. Baldur can tell you more about that. We probably left it a little bit too long in the barrel, though.
Yeah, it was just a trial, and we don't really have the equipment to bottle it properly. Such a small quantity, it would just be lost in the pipes.
Okay.
But it was really good out of the barrel.
Cool.
Yeah, the Wee Heavy was interesting as well. There are, for me, there's usually a little bit of whiskey notes, kind of in the beer coming from the smoked barley, and those were really heightened, once they had been in the barrel as well. So it became, if I remember correctly, Baldur, it was above 10% ABV, it stayed in the barrel for a while, and very intense whiskey kind of notes.
Yeah, the barrels also always have a bit alcohol, whiskey infused in them, so the beers became 1 to 2% stronger after the barrel aging.
Okay. because they're getting also kind of ABVs out of the wood, out of the barrel.
So one of these days we hopefully can, but it will be very limited, but we hope to, and it's in our plans to release some very limited amounts of barrel-aged Eastern beers, and be sure to get some to beer lovers.
Yeah, but it's hard to get some, even when the quantities are so small, and so limited. So it's difficult.
A few cases.
Okay, yeah, of course. We always try to get everything what is possible. Okay, Baldur, it was really nice talking to you, share some experience with you. Thank you for being open, transparent, share a little bit of your knowledge. I'm pretty sure you have kind of a wider range, and as Gudjon mentioned, you're always welcome in Vienna, and then I can introduce you to a lot of brewers here in Austria, and you can exchange ideas, technologies, and I wish you all the best.
Very nice to be here. And one of my favorites is the traditional Vienna style of lagers. So
Vienna style lager, Andrea. So maybe I find the possibility to send you some bottles of Vienna style lager to taste for you. Thank you. Really, thank you again. Gudjon, good to seeing you again. Thanks for your time. And wish you all the best and stay healthy. And hope to see you soon. Maybe this year in November for the Craft Beer Festival. That could be a really cool thing when we can get all together again.
Really hope so. It's about time.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Thank you very much, and yes, all of you, stay healthy and safe.
So, auch an euch will ich sagen, danke fürs Zuschauen. Noch ganz kurz Werbung in eigener Sache. Am 15.02. ist die nächste Veranstaltung von Drink at Home. Diesmal gibt es ein Weizenbier, Weizenbock, nennen wir es Battle, obwohl es ja eigentlich ein Come-Together ist. Wir werden haben in Mario Schenkenberger von der Bierschmiede aus Österreich mit seinem Weizen und mit seinem Doppelbock. Dann werden wir haben Gudmann mit dem Michael Gudmann, mit dem Braumeister, mit dem Gudmann Hefeweizen und dem Gudmann Bock. Und dann werden wir haben die älteste Brauerei Weinstefan, die vertreten sein werden mit dem Vitus, mit dem Weizenbock und mit dem normalen Weinstefan Hefeweizen. Also ich würde mich freuen, wenn wir uns wiedersehen. Und das erste Mal ist es dann so, dass ich 3 Gäste live begrüßen darf. Und dann zu guter Letzt möchte ich euch unser neues Sticker-Album an den Herzen legen. Eine wirklich tolle Geschichte, die unser Marketing gemeinsam mit mir entwickelt haben. Es sind ca. 260 Sticker zum Sammeln, ein Auszug aus im Prinzip ganz Europa und ein bisschen aus der Welt. Amerika ist dabei, Kanada ist dabei. Also es ist ein wirklich tolles Sammelalbum in der Art eines Panini-Fußballalbums. Macht wirklich sehr viel Spaß, die Sticker zu tauschen, und wir hoffen, dass wir bald irgendwo einen Tauschabend oder einen Sticker-Exchange-Evening haben werden, irgendwo in Wien oder vielleicht auch in der Mitte von Österreich. Also haltet die Augen offen, und ich würde mich freuen, wenn der ein oder andere von euch so ein Sticker-Album erwerben würde. In diesem Sinne, danke fürs Zuschauen, bleibt gesund und hoffentlich bis am 15.02. zur Weißbierverkostung.